Hello, team. I do believe that we are live. Give me 1 second. As you know, I always want to make sure that we are live. We are live, everyone. Awesome. Okie dokie. We are live. Thank you. Guys, how annoying is it that Facebook is deleting all, and I mean all, of the video trainings? Like they're deleting the trainings, and I'm struggling to keep up. So I'm going to record this. And if you don't already know, I am starting to try and post these videos on YouTube. So if you like these videos and you want to listen to more and you love them, then visit the YouTube channel, ask me for my YouTube channel link, and you will be able to find some of them there. I've done over 100 videos, and unfortunately, we've only been able to salvage probably about 70% of them, which is really, really annoying, of course. So let me hit record and let's go. All right, I think we are live. We are ready. Good evening, good morning, wherever you are. Thank you so much for coming along, ladies, ladies, ladies. Welcome to today's training, and I'm really glad you're here because this one is one of those topics for weight loss that if we do not address, it can quietly sabotage everything else that you're trying to do on your health journey. And today we're going to talk about the scale, weighing in, the big ass calculator that you have lying in your bathroom. But more specifically, we're going to talk about the fear of the scale, the anxiety, the dread, the aftermath of weighing in on a weekend, right? Or on a Monday. The emotional meltdown that can happen after a weigh in, even when things feel like they're going so well. So, here's what we're going to talk about today, and what I want you to walk away from this session knowing. I want you to have a clear understanding of what the scale actually measures, okay, and what it doesn't. The real reason you're afraid of stepping on it, because I'm just going to tell you now, it's not about the number, right? It's not about the number that the big calculator spits up. And I'm going to give you 3 steps, 3 practical tools that is going to help you detach your worth, your progress, what you believe about yourself from that little big or the big calculator on your floor. So if you've ever stepped on the scale in the morning and felt like your whole day has been ruined, your week has been ruined, or like that number makes you mean that you're a good person or a bad person, you are, my God, you are not alone, okay? And more importantly, you are not broken. You do not need to be fixed. You've just never been taught how to have a healthy relationship with not only the scale but with data. And that's what we're going to really start shifting today. Um, I really want to tell you about one of my clients. And some of you might have seen a post inside on Facebook somewhere, but one of my clients, I'm gonna nickname her Emma for today. Okay, so Emma joined my program after years of yo-yo dieting, and she had, by the way, obviously spoiler alert, Emma is not her real name. I'm just gonna cover her name up just in case. But she's had a long history, a long history with yo-yo dieting. So really like crash dieting and then regaining it and more, crash dieting, regaining it and more. And she's just had a long history with dieting, yo-yo dieting, with Slimming World, Weight Watchers, low carb diets, cabbage diets, like you name it, she's tried it. And like a lot of women, she's developed this ritual of weighing herself first thing in the morning every single day. Now, she was consistent with this, right? She was following her plan. She was batch cooking. She was eating more whole foods than ever before. And she was moving her body, even physically feeling better, right? After some coaching. But really, the moment that she stepped on the scale and saw the number hadn't budged, or even some weeks had gone up, maybe 1 or 2 pounds, or even half a kilo one week, she'd have this habit of spiraling. And she'd message me saying, like, I feel like I'm doing everything right, but the scale is not working, it's not budging. Like, what's the point? And it didn't matter how much progress she'd made in any other area of her life. So whether that was energy, in her sleep, in her digestion, Even she like even had clearer skin. It did not matter. The scale still had this power over her to flip her mindset, her mood, her reactions, her behavior in an instant. And so this turning point came when I asked her one question, like, what are you making the number mean about you? And so after some digging, we realized that she wasn't reacting to the number itself. She was actually reacting to an old belief that if the number goes up, it means that she's failing. Or if the number maintains, she's failing. And that she's out of control, right? She can't do this. This means that she's failing, that she'll never be able to keep the weight off. And that belief had nothing to do with her actual behavior. It was just an old automatic story that she really had never questioned before. And so from that moment on, we worked on detaching the scale from her self-worth, from her perception of how enough she was. Sorry, my brain's not working. And instead using it for what it's actually meant for, which is just a neutral, factual, numerical feedback, which we can use over time, which helps us dictate whether what we're doing is working or whether what we're doing is not working, right? Not like a daily report card on who she is and how she has been over the last week. I want you to have a think to yourself, like, have you ever said to yourself, like, oh, I've been good this week? Right? Drop in the chat now, say, yeah, I've been good, if you've ever said I've been good this week. And I want you to drop in the chat as well if you have ever said I've been bad this week, right? Drop in I've been good or drop in I've been bad if you've ever said any of those things before. If you said them both, drop them both in. Because you are starting to align a value, a moral value to your actions that you've taken throughout the week. And when you start associating the scale with being good or bad, it becomes a little bit messy. Okay. Um, because because you start making it mean that you are morally good or morally bad on what the scale says. But here's the thing, right? The scale doesn't always tell you, doesn't have the best reflection of what's happened that week. And it certainly has absolutely no place in telling you whether you're a good or a bad person, good or bad at dieting. There really is no right or wrong of dieting. I mean, dieting is a very, very difficult thing to do. Picking up a sustainable lifestyle that is easy to maintain is probably where you want to be, but not dieting. Um, so give me 1 second. My notes are all over the place. I had notes, but they are all over the place. And so if you find that you assign a moral value to the scale, something that I spoke with my client about, which really helped, is looking at it from the point of view that it is just a big calculator because it's just doing maths. Okay. All the scale is doing is telling you how much your overall body mass weighs. It doesn't mean that you didn't try hard enough. It doesn't mean that you suck at dieting. It doesn't tell you that you're shit at weight loss, right? It just tells you a numerical value. So if I was to give you a calculator, if I was to give you a thermometer, and you were to put some numbers into the calculator and you made a mistake and you hit the wrong button and it gave you the wrong answer that you were looking for, would you make that mean that you are worthless, that you suck, that you're crap at doing what you're supposed to be doing, right? Probably wouldn't. You go, oh, whoops, okay, what happened? Well, I pressed the wrong number, so therefore it gave me the wrong result. If I gave you a thermometer, would you hold it and let it go up and go, oh my God, this means that I'm this temperature, but I should be at this temperature. This makes me a bad person. This makes me suck, right? We wouldn't give that much power over other pieces of equipment that we do the scale. So why do we do it? Typically from diet culture, right? Typically we've gone through Weight Watchers, Slimming World, where we would stand on a scale and they would tell us whether we've been good or whether we've been bad, right? They decide that we have a moral value because of the scale number, right? They tell us that that's what it is. And so with dieting, they don't take into account natural fluctuations. They don't take into account that we are a human being with a body, with a brain, with reactions, with programming, right? They don't take into account everything that contributes to a weight gain or a weight loss or a weight maintenance. And I've heard some horror stories with some clients about the shame and embarrassment about getting on a scale in public because they've been humiliated on the scale, right? And they humiliate them on the scale. So it's no wonder why a lot of us have a fear and anxiety about standing on this big calculator. So what me and my client did is we started looking at it as that, like it's just a calculator. All it's telling you is your gravitational pull towards the planet. Now, what is included in the gravitational pull? So the scale does not measure unless you have one of those fancy pants ones that you hold and you grip, or that it's like got the metal bits on the bottom and it tells you what your entire body mass is made up of in individual components. A general scale does not measure fat loss on a day-to-day basis. And in fact, it's very difficult to lose 1 pound of body fat over the span of a few days, right? Very, very difficult. 1 pound of body fat is quite a significant amount. And it's only a tiny, tiny, weeny amount over every part of your body. So the scale is actually measuring your body's relationship to gravity at that exact moment. That number is influenced by so many things that have nothing to do, well, that have a little bit to do with fat, but also nothing else to do with fat. Like water retention. I want you to stand on a scale, weigh yourself, get off, grab a glass of water, and then stand back on the scale. Notice that scale fluctuates, right? Even just having a little bit of water retention within your body because of the foods that you've eaten, for example, is going to change the scale, right? And then if you were to stand on the scale, would you tell yourself with that glass of water, if you stand on the scale with a glass of water, would you tell yourself, I'm shit at weight loss because now I'm holding a glass of water? You wouldn't, right? But because the scale isn't telling you that that specific weight increase or that number is this much water, you don't know. So you're assuming, you are creating a meaning around it, right? It doesn't account for hormones, salt intake, doesn't account for the stress that you've had over the week, the sleep, the inflammation, bowel movements. Do you need to take a poop? Right? Did you take a bigger poop yesterday? Is there some poop still left in your system? Is there food, undigested food left in your system? Is there food left in your system that isn't ready to be excreted yet? Right? When was the last time you ate? Because that's going to impact and affect the volume, the weight inside your body. So especially if you weigh every single day, expecting it to go down every day just because you've been good sets you up for disappointment. It's going to set you up for self-sabotage. The number fluctuates, period. The number will fluctuate from the minute you wake up to the minute you go to bed, over and over again. It's going to go up and down and up and down, and probably going to increase as the day goes on. Because until you sleep, you will not have probably had 8 hours worth of not eating and not drinking. The number fluctuates. That is perfectly normal. It's really not a problem until you decide it's a problem. It's not a problem until you decide that it means something about you. Okay? So the reason why the scale should not determine anything about you is because it doesn't give you an accurate reading. It doesn't tell you exactly what's happened. It just gives you an overall general pointer. Now, this is data, okay? So if you are on a weight loss journey, having data is important, right? Whether that is measurements of your bicep, measurements of your body, your belly, measurements of your hips and your waist, right? That is data. That is pure data. The number on the scale is also data, but it's a general piece of data. So why do we want to get on the scale in the first place? Well, if the scale is going to give you an overall weight and your habits remain the same, then you are going to get a good idea on whether you are losing a little bit of body fat or not. But weighing yourself every day is only going to give you a little piece of the pie, a little bit of information there. So I recommend you weigh every day and then take the average of that week. So the average, you want to take the average of the week and use that as that week's data point. Okay. So you will have weigh-ins that is higher and weigh-ins that is lower than the one that you have that week. But that's going to give you a slightly more accurate reading than measuring every single day. Because one day you might have had a big dinner or more salt the night before. So what's going to happen? If you went for the next day's weigh-in, that's going to give you a much more inaccurate reading than taking the average of the week. Okay, so that's one reason why we want to make sure that we are not letting the scale take control of our mind. Okay, so one thing I want you to recognize, team, is that the scale does not tell you anything apart from a number. You are making it mean something about you when you decide that it means something about you, right? So the second thing I want you to do um, is second thing for you is to really decide what the number will mean before you step on the scale. And this, guys, is a game changer. So before you weigh yourself, I want you to take a moment and ask, what am I choosing to make this mean today? Like, and choose a neutral or compassionate response. Maybe it's, this is just one piece of data. My job is to focus on actions, not outcomes. Or my body is adapting and adjusting in its own time. These are predetermined thoughts. When you go into your weigh-in with a predetermined thought, it's not as easy to kind of fly off the handle with your emotions. It's not easy to get taken away with what the scale is saying. It makes it harder for you to start reacting badly. Okay, so what a lot of people can do is they will get on the scale, and if it has moved in the way that they want, they might turn around and say, well, it's not moved as fast as I'd hoped to. Maybe this means that I can't lose weight. And then their actions thereafter are very much confirming that that belief is true, because your actions are going to align with what you've just said. Whereas if you get on the scale and it is not as much as you'd hoped, you can predetermine the thought of, I have done to the best of my ability this week, and that's all I can do. Otherwise, you can say, you can sit in a pity party, basically, and you can tell yourself, this isn't enough. I'm not good enough. If you don't pre-decide the meaning, your brain will automatically reach for whatever old judgment or criticism it is used to producing in that moment. So you've got to make sure that you serve that thought, you give yourself that thought, you pre-program that thought in before you stand on the scale. And what I actually did with my client is gave her a piece of homework. And I said, I want you to create a plan for what you're going to think, feel, and do if the scale is up, if the scale is the same, and if the scale is down. Because we can react either way, right? If the scale is going in the way that you want it to go, you can say, hey, awesome, I've got a few extra calories to play. That is going to totally sabotage next week's weigh-in. Okay. If the scale is up, you might start punishing yourself and restricting your calories for the day, for the week. What's that going to lead to? Typically a binge, because you're restricting so much, because you're trying to punish yourself. It works in the opposite way. So we must have a plan in place that is a really good, clear action plan on how you're going to think, how you're going to feel, and how you're going to act when you weigh in. Otherwise, it is very easy for the in the moment version of you, the one that's stepping on the scale, to make it mean everything bad about you. So the third thing that I want to say is I want you to use the scale for trends, right? Not this daily drama if you weigh in daily. So if you want to track your weight, I recommend doing it, right? It's totally fine, but you've got to do it strategically. Weighing yourself daily is only okay if you're tracking a weekly average, as I said, and viewing it with emotional detachment. So this is taking away the meaning that you're assigning to the weight, taking that away. Okay, we've got to look at this analytically. It does not mean anything about you. It is a reflection on how well your habits have landed on your body. The thing is we can think that we've done so well this week. I've done so well. I've done all of my habits. I've done everything. But you're crowded with emotion, with stress, with feelings and thoughts. Your brain is going to over exaggerate how much you have done. Okay. How many times have you ever said something along the lines of, oh my God, I've done it every day? And then someone says every day. And you say, well, yeah, I did it like 5 or 6 days. That's not every day. It's not every day. So when we are sh overshadowed by our own thoughts and our own feelings and our own emotions, we find it very difficult to actually look at this analytically and say, okay, this is actually what happened and this is what happened. So we've really got to detach the emotion from it so that we can look at the trends, look at when it's going up, and ask ourselves, hey, what needs to change? What do I need to continue? What do I need to stop? Right? Instead of listening to the daily noise of, you can't do this, you're crap, you're going to struggle. Right? Alternatively, you can weigh weekly or monthly or not at all if it is triggering for you, but you're not going to get that feedback. Now, constant feedback, when you are able to detach your emotions to the number, is going to be the one thing that's going to drive you the fastest. Okay. So we really need to use that feedback, or you can use measurements instead. That works effectively. You can use the scales that measure the body fat and the bone density and stuff like that as well. That would also help. But if we're not getting a consistent feedback, it's very, very difficult for us to see any and notice any progress and see what's working and what's not. Because at the end of the day, when we are working on a diet or even on a sustainable lifestyle change, so whether you're working on a diet or whether you're working on like my program Regenerate, for example, we need that constant feedback because we must recognize what works well for us and what is working for our body. So with the feedback, every week you get to see whether things are working for you or not. Whereas you could go for an entire month doing what you think is enough, doing what you think should be enough to get you weight loss, but it's just not for your body. Okay, because every body is different. Everyone has a different body the amount of water that they need, the amount of calories that they need, the way that how easily they feel full up, how quickly they get hungry, right? Everyone has a slightly different body and it responds differently. So you could take a plan and follow it, but that's not sustainable. So that's why we need the feedback, because we need consistent check-in to tell us whether we need to change something or whether what we're doing is working. If you don't want to weigh in daily, you must be pairing it with other forms of feedback. So you take daily photos, measurements, you track your energy levels, how your clothes fit every day, how you feel in your body, because all of this is part of that feedback loop. And you've got to keep making sure that you're getting that feedback, because you won't be able to change something if you don't know that it's not working for you. Does that make sense? Like drop in the chat, like if that makes sense, right? So I'm going to say this plain and simply, guys. The scale can only hurt you if you give it power. If you decide that this big calculator is going to make it mean that you suck at dieting, that you're going to fail, that you're useless, that you're worthless, that you're not enough, that is only the decision that you are making. You are making a decision to make this number that this big calculator is just shitting out mean about you. If you made an incorrect calculation on a real calculator, would you let that mean something about you? No. The thing is the diet industry has made us believe that the number on the scale is a direct reflection of our worth. It is not. It is not. Weight Watchers Slimming World, you're all a lot of bullshit. Right? To be quite frank, because that is nothing to do with our worth, but everything to do with the work sorry, I've just seen a spider on the wall. It has everything to do with a reflection on how the habits at the level that you did them is reacting to our body. Okay, so the scale is telling you whether your body or how your body is responding to the habits and the behaviors that you did that week. And if the scale is the same, you either keep doing what you're doing or you change something. If the scale is going down and that's the way you want it to go, I would recommend you just keep doing what you're doing until it starts balancing out, and then you've got to change again until it balances out, and then you've got to change. Once you start using it as a tool, not as a judge, you can take that power back. You get to take that power back, because don't forget, only you are letting the scale mean something about you. If you have fear, if you have anxiety around a scale, remember that it's just a big calculator. That's it. The only thing that it is giving you is a number, and that number is simply probably 2 or 3 numbers, and they are just a general idea of whether what you're doing is working or not. That's it. That's it. When you sit down and think about that, it can change your mind. It can change the way that you look at the scale. And therefore, you will be able to get on the scale with less anxiety, less shame, less depression, less frustration, and utilize it. And when you can utilize the scale, understand what that number is doing, what it is meaning, you get to make results faster because you have the feedback. Having that constant feedback is going to give you more direction faster, more accurate direction of where you need to go and what you need to do, which means you can create results faster. So why is it important to get on the scale regularly and not make it mean anything about you? If you can stand on the scale on a day-to-day basis and not have it screw up with your day, screw up with your week, and don't let it affect your mindset and your emotional state, you will be able to leverage that daily weigh-in to see what's working, what's not, so you can do more of what's working, less of what's not, and create much faster results. The clients that weigh in regularly are the clients that see the most results the fastest. I have clients who don't want to stand on the scale, right? I have clients who have been scared to stand on the scale because of they've gone spiraling before, right? Because they've been out of control. Because last time they stood on the scale, they turned anorexic, or last time they stood on the scale, they got publicly humiliated, right? I have clients who come to me who struggle to stand on the scale, but the moment they start getting regular feedback is the moment that they start making the most progress. Again, why? Because you get to determine whether what you're doing is working or whether it's not. And if it's not working, you change it. If it's working, you just keep doing the same. If this training resonated with you, I want you to do two things, okay? First, I want you to drop a heart in the comments right now. Drop a heart in the comments if this helped reframe something for you today. Let me know what you're taking away from this, or if you're going to try one of these tips this week. And second, if you're done letting the scale dictate your worth, if you're over a big calculator making things mean something about you, okay, and you want to learn how to feel your body for real results without restricting yourself, without punishment, without obsession, then I'd love to invite you to my free 5-day sustainable weight loss workshop. We're gonna, excuse me, we're gonna kick off in a couple of weeks. It's completely free. You will learn how to have control of your mind, your thoughts, your actions, along with what to eat to lose fat without tracking a single thing. How to set your body up for weight loss success instead of failure, and how to identify why you keep falling off the wagon over and over so you can rewrite your story. It's designed to help you feel confident, in controlled, in control and fueled for life, not just for summer. So comment challenge below and I'll personally send you the information. All right, my lovelies and badasses, thank you so much for showing up today. And please remember, you are not the number on the scale. You are a smart person. You're wise. You're a powerful woman. And you're doing your damn best to heal your body and your mindset. And if you're not, then come to the challenge because you need to be. I'm so proud of you for being here. Thank you so much for joining me for this week's training. I will catch you all soon. Bye.